After the release of Santa Monica Studios' 2018 God of War, PlayStation fans have been eagerly waiting for its sequel, which was teased with a post-credits scene featuring Thor, the God of Thunder. Finally, on November 9th of this year, God of War Ragnarok was released to the delight of fans across the world. Players get to jump back into the proverbial sandals of the titular God of War to leap, solve puzzles, and more importantly, bash any adversary in his way. Does God of War Ragnarok live up to its 2018 release? And more importantly, the franchise's long and highly regarded history? Let's find out on this week's spoiler-free because the game just came out last week, version of Geeks with Kids. I'm Eric, and joining me this week is Hawk, Brent, and Marcus. So, yes, that looks amazing. That's from the collector edition. I will print that.
I almost bought one off of. I found one on eBay for like $3.25, and I was like so tempted. But it was $3.25 without the game, and I was like, ah.
Anyway,
I would have done it. This is the coolest prop I've ever received in something like this.
If I wasn't trying to build my new PC right now, I would have.
That's fair.
100% would have.
Totally fair.
Fair enough. I can't wait for
it's Mjolnir or a motherboard. So
fair. Anyway, before we start, I want to thank Sony for sending us a review copy so we can play the game a little bit early. But that being said, we're gonna do this roundtable fashion. We're gonna start with Marcus, Brent, then Hawk, and then me. And let's start with the history of the franchise. So, Nintendo has Mario, Sega has Sonic, Xbox has Master Chief, but PlayStation really has a number of mascots from Sackboy to Sweet Tooth to, even the newer Nathan Drake. Arguably, the most popular of the bunch is Kratos, the God of War. God of War is an action-adventure franchise that was created by David Jaffe at Sony Santa Monica Studios. The first game was released on the PlayStation 2 back in 2005, and the game has had subsequent releases on every single system, including the PlayStation Portable and the PS Vita. Also, there was a Facebook text messenger game. I don't know if any of you guys played that. It was a prelude to 2018's God of War. It was all right.
I feel like I did, actually. I feel like
It was Atreus' first adventure. I remember it. For some odd reason, I remember it very well. So how familiar are you guys with the God of War franchise? Like, were you a fan from the get-go, or did you come into it later? Let's start with, who did I say first? Marcus.
Yes. I was a fan from the get-go, especially because growing up, I always had a huge love and a huge interest in mythology, specifically Greek mythology, especially. So that was always a big thing. So any kind of mythos kind of thing where it came to gods and beings of otherworldly kind of things, demigods, it was something that always grabbed my attention. So I played the first God of War immediately because I just thought this is going to be really cool. And it was looking back at it now when I've seen gameplay of the original and stuff like that, I think I still have it. It's kind of ridiculous to see how far we've come, but I still love the original game. I could still feel the power within those slices and blades and stuff. And I've played pretty much I think I played every iteration of the game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've played everything, and I loved all of them. Don't think I've completed all of them. I don't think I ever finished Ascension. I think I got pretty close to beating it, and I never actually finished it.
Ascension's the one that I've had the most frustrating moments in the God of War franchise.
It was because it felt like it wasn't complete. It felt a little bit rushed. It felt a little bit yeah, we're doing this because y'all want another God of War game somewhere, so we're gonna throw you this one. It was good, but it wasn't great.
Fair enough. Brent.
My first experience with the original God of War was kind of a weird one where it was someone that I worked with was playing it. And they would come in to work every single day and basically fill me in on what they had done last night and then tell me about a puzzle that they're stuck on and then explain to me what was going on in it and ask me if I had any kind of ideas on how to get through it. And this would happen every day that we worked together for a couple weeks. So then finally I was like, I'm just going to go out and get this game because I feel like I've already played it, so I might as well try it. Fell in love with it immediately. When the second one came out, I got it. I don't think I ever beat it. So I wasn't really huge on the series. It wasn't until I got my very first PS4 and I bought the bundle with the Nathan Drake collection. And then after I bought it, I got an email from Amazon going, "Oh, we're going to give you a code for a free game to go with it." And it was the God of War 3 remaster.
Yeah.
And I played that, and then I played it again, and then I played it again, and then I played it again, and I love God of War 3 so much. That's what solidified me on the series. I never have gone back and played any of the older ones because like I just don't really have like super fond memories of the early ones. It's only 3 that ever that shot at the beginning of all of the gods standing on the edge of Olympus as like the Titans are coming up and knowing I'm gonna kill every single one of you in this game is like, oh boy. I loved it from that moment. So when 2018 hit and the new one came out, and I saw that it was a completely change of scenery, I was like, I'm all in on this one, 100%.
Sorry, me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Eric.
Yeah, you. Oh,
You were muted. Hi.
I kept on going backwards between the mute and the unmute.
So I actually never played the original iterations for PS2 or PS3 in that. And looking back, I have no idea why not. Because I'd heard nothing but good things about them. You know? They were on my radar, but just not completely in that. But by the time 2018's God of War entry for PS4 came out, I felt compelled, you know, as if the choice was not my own to actually play it, and you know, because it was such a huge title, it was such a AAA enterprise, ended up being like probably my favorite game of 2018.
I'm pretty sure that was when we did our best of that year. I think that's what you picked.
Probably.
I remember when you first played it and you're like, you're walking in a mountain and you can see footprints. You can see footprints as you're walking through the snow. I was like, yes, that's amazing.
I'm hard pressed to find anyone who didn't have that as their game of the year. Like
2018, yeah, that was definitely up there for me. It probably was mine. For me personally, I didn't get into God of War until God of War 3 because I didn't have a PS1, I didn't have a PS2. So when God of War 3 came out, I obviously got it because it looked amazing. And like Brent said, you start off the game just with epicness and it just goes up from there. So as soon as I played that, I was like, well, they're going to release the remasters soon. I'm going to play the first 2, and I played the first 2. I ended up playing the Vita version. I never had a PSP, but I ended up playing the remasters of those games when they released it on I want to say PS4 later.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
They were all on PS Now at one point, so it would have been PS4, yeah.
I never did PS Now. I don't know why. I like streaming games. Anyway, when 2018 came out, obviously, I'm pretty sure we reviewed it on the show. I think, Marcus, you may have actually jumped on for that episode. Or maybe I was just talking to you because I know you were really excited for it. But yeah, it was amazing. And I ended up getting that one on PS4, PS5, and I also have it on PC. So that's how much I like 2018's. It is a phenomenal game. Plus, I get to play it on the go on my Steam Deck, and it runs really well.
Nice.
So originally, the first era of God of War was the Greek mythology era. Players followed Spartan warrior Kratos on his quest for revenge against Ares. After obtaining Pandora's box, he became the God of War. We continue to follow him as he went up against the rest of the Olympian gods and even eventually the Titans themselves, which was God of War 3. Fast forward to 2018's God of War, which is set many, many, many years after God of War 3 in ancient Norway. Thus, Nordic mythology. We find Kratos and his son Atreus mourning the loss of his wife, Atreus' mother, Faye. They go forward on a quest to fulfill her final wish, which is spreading her ashes at the highest peak of the 9 realms. Along the way, we meet creatures and the gods of Norse mythology. God of War Ragnarok, which is this game, follows directly after that story. Atreus, who we found out at the end of the previous game, is part giant and called Loki, and is now older and on a mission to stop Ragnarok from happening, whether Kratos likes that or not. So obviously, like I said, this game came out last week, so we're going to keep this spoiler-free for story because the story beats in this game are amazing. There's so many new characters because we didn't get many gods last game, but this game, they're just like, you know what? Let's throw them all in. And with these new gods, you get all these amazing new characters and these new actors. So Ragnarok sees the returning Christopher Judge Judge, and Sonny Sulajek as Kratos and Atreus, as well as Danielle Busetti as Freya. But we get these new actors, and just to name a few, we have Richard Schiff from The West Wing as Odin, the perfect Odin.
When he walked on.
We will talk about each of these actors, or at least some of them, the ones that stand out. Ryan Hurst from Sons of Anarchy as Thor. Mina Sundwall from Lost in Space as Thrud. Deborah Ann Wool from Daredevil as Laufey. Brett Dalton from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Freyr. And Emily Rose, which is from Haven, or you might know her from the Uncharted franchise, as Sif. What did you think of these new additions? Like, how did they round out the cast for you guys? Marcus, you get to go first.
Oh yes. Okay, I'm gonna start with Ryan Hurst, because back when Sons of Anarchy first showed up, I remember he was the character that I identified.
Everybody loved Opie.
Opie was God.
The definitive best character on that show. And then, I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the show, sorry, but
it's been long enough now.
Yeah, when he is off the show, he dies. It was the biggest uproar that I remember.
I got you.
You know the people used to say if The Walking Dead kills Daryl, I will stop watching. I heard people say it for so long. But
last night was the series finale and they didn't. So
yeah, well, but with Sons of Anarchy, after Opie died, I really, really had a hard time going back to watch it. I really, really had a hard time getting back into that show.
It really showed how he was sort of like the angel on Charlie Hunnam's shoulder, because he just went downhill from that point on.
Absolutely. And that's also I'm not sure if they actually planned it that way, but it did kind of work for the overall arcing and eventually the ultimate outcome of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But now going into that, knowing that he was cast as Thor, I was so excited for it. And then I know there was a lot of people, criticizing the fat Thor, oh, look at this big chunky guy. But
that's
really,
that's what
he's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what the Norse gods were really like.
If you read, actual Norse mythology describes him as a massive man. And when they think massive man, they're not going to think a giant, muscular, bulky kind of dude. Massive meant big, a wall of a man. And that's exactly what they've made him. And he's just so good. And his voice is just magical in this. Oh, I can't say enough about it. I love it.
Can I read something about Thor? This is from Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, which is a phenomenal book. If you want to,
I have it.
If you want to check it out, also if you have the audiobook, it's Neil Gaiman reading this to you, which is just delightful. This is what he said about Thor. Huge he is, and red-bearded and strong, by far the strongest of all the gods. His might is increased by his belt of strength. Mjolnir, when he wears it, his strength is doubled. Oh, no, wait, that's Megan Yord. Anyway,
Megan, yeah.
He's straightforward, where his father Odin is cunning, good-natured, where his father is devious. This is a phenomenal book. If you don't know anything about Norse mythology, he does a really good job at
the stories
simplifying
about it. The stories about Loki are the funniest fucking things. Just so unbelievably good.
Yeah.
And there's some nice tie-ins to this game and actual Loki lore, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
other actors.
And all the honestly, the actors are fantastic. I absolutely love what's her name, Danielle,
Deborah Ann
Freya, right?
No, the one who plays
Danielle
Bisutti.
Yeah. I absolutely love her. I think she's amazing, and this iteration especially feels really good. I really enjoy it. I think they've done a really good job with casting in these games. The voice acting, it feels great, and I love that they actually take from the actors and put them into the game.
Yeah,
it feels really authentic. It feels really again, going back to Thor, when I saw the original concept art, I'm like, oh, he's just a big chunky thing. But then when he's actually doing his thing in the game, I'm like, oh my god, it does look like Ryan Hurst. He doesn't look exactly like him, but there's enough there that I'm like, yes, I see it. So it's really, really cool.
Agreed.
Good choices.
Brent.
So I guess as we discussed before we started recording, I'm kind of the baby of the group here for how much time I've put into the game. So I can't really comment too much on any of the actors, because the only two that the only three of the list that I've encountered so far are Freya, Thor and Odin. So I gotta throw a lot of love for the casting of Richard Schiff as Odin, because he is just one of those like underrated guys who deserves so much more recognition than he gets. He is just like the kind of actor who gives it everything he has in every role he has. And unfortunately, everyone just remembers him probably as the guy who got bit in half by two T-Rexes in Lost World. It's like, no, he's so much more than that.
I totally forgot he was in that movie.
Oh my god, I totally forgot that it had happened.
That's not what comes to mind.
That's the power of Richard Schiff in that.
Yeah.
I'll give you another movie he was in. He was in Seven for a brief moment. Yep.
What?
The lawyer.
Who?
The lawyer for John Doe at when he's in the office.
Wow.
Brad Pitt's standing
he's
there yelling at him.
He's one of those chameleon actors who just pops up in everything, and you never remember. You remember the performance, but you never remember that it was him because he's just fits into everything so perfectly. So seeing him taking on this role is just like when he walked in, because I saw his name in the credits at the opening, and I was like, "Oh, who the hell is he playing? This is that's awesome." Mm-hmm. Seeing him walk in as Odin, I was like, "Oh my god, this is incredible! Yep. I'm in. I'm all in now on this story
for sure. What about you, Hawk? What do you think of the cast? How well did you do?
Cast is great. Like I said, not enough can be said about Ryan Hurst's performance and that. Like he was coming off of doing that stint on Walking Dead as Beta. Which was actually a really great performance in that. He kept his voice really low, creepy in that. I love that how expressive the range of his vocal work is in this, because like when you first meet him, he's very low talking, mumbly, but when they get into the actual action and fight scenes and that roar of his as he's screaming in Kratos' face. Oof.
That when he gets into that fight and Odin's like, don't take long. I was like,
finally, like, boom.
Not to like keep going on Ryan Hurst here, but like I want a mind trip for each of you guys. Now that you've seen him like in this, you've seen him as Opie, and you've seen him as Beta in Walking Dead. Go back and remember that he was the lead in Remember the Titans.
Yes, I remember.
That was him.
He was so young.
That's exactly. You look at him in that movie, and you're like, how did you become this guy?
He's the one who got in the car crash. That's him.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He put on a lot of weight, grew a beard, and became epic as all fuck.
Oh damn, that's amazing.
He was also in The Lady Killers with Tom Hanks as like the Indian guy.
Yep. Yes,
that was one of his best roles. He was amazing.
That's a good one.
movie.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah. I love that movie.
Anything else about the cast?
Richard Schiff. When it was announced that Richard Schiff was going to be in this and playing Odin, and that I didn't see it, but as soon as he walked in through the door, I kind of got it. And that, it's like, our ideals about gods and what they're supposed to look like, in any sort of visual medium is kind of been slightly affected and maybe marvelized a little bit. As you said, people were complaining about Fat Thor and that showing up in this game, even though that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. This is what Odin is supposed to look like. Not a huge giant of a man or muscular or whatever in that, but the crafty, wise, manipulative, and ultimately the guy who's
so well.
Three steps ahead of you on the board.
Yeah.
That's the kind of character that, like, when you look at Richard Schiff, that's just physically, that's what he oozes, is like sneaky. Like,
well, he's always been so. Oh, sorry, Hawk. Did I cut you off from anyone else?
No, go on.
Okay, so
Richard Shifty.
When you watch him on the West Wing, he's always that one that's always calculating what's happening next, and that's what he brings to Odin so much. There's so much underlying, like, underneath what he's saying. Like, you can hear him talk, but there's like a million things that he's conveying in that moment, and it's brilliant. When he gets later, like when you get later in the game, and he becomes more manipulative without seeming manipulative. Yeah. It's brilliant. Like, he has some of the best acting I've ever seen. There's a reason why this man can jump from DC to Marvel and no one cares, because he's that good. I can't say anything better about the returning through rate. Christopher Judge as Kratos is perfect. He is the perfect God of War. Sonny Suljic as Atreus. Like, it's amazing that they brought him in, like, from the boy he was in 2018 to now, and he's matured so much, and it feels like that in the game, and it's amazing as well. Freya, Danielle Bisutti, her her coming in, those three characters coming in right at the beginning of the game was perfect because really they're the center of this story, I feel. Ryan Hurst, man, can I add anything that you guys haven't said? He's perfect as Thor. He's perfect.
Yeah, I'm good with just gushing more about Ryan Hurst. Like, we could just keep doing that. Like, that's
there's later. Like I said, you meet Sif, who's his wife, and Thrud, which is his daughter. Like, that's all known through mythology. But his family dynamic with those two is amazing. So, like, bad props to Emily Rose, who played what's her name from Uncharted, the main love interest. I can't remember. Elena,
yes.
Yeah, from Uncharted. And then Mina Sundwell from Lost in Space. I think she was Penny on Lost in Space. She does an amazing job as Thrud. Deborah Ann Wool from Daredevil as Laufey, as the mom, as Kratos' wife, is beautiful. It's so.
I'm glad that character has more in this this game.
Yeah,
that's really nice to see.
Especially when they name dropped her god or her giant character last game, and you're like, well, that's an important giant. There should probably be something beyond that, and she does. She adds a lot to this game, and I think there's still more. Like, did we say how many hours we've been in this game yet for the people in the
not recording? No.
So me and Hawk are around 40-ish hours, and I feel like there's still a lot more to go. Marcus, you said you're around 13.
Just under 14 hours.
Yeah, and Brent, you said you're around 9 or 10.
Just around 9.5.
Okay. Yeah. So the story, like, it feels very authentic, and this is the next section we're going to talk about, the authenticity of the Norse mythology. I feel like without directly stealing from mythology, they've definitely made it their own, but also they made it sort of, authentic to the Norse mythology. Like, it's an interpretation, like Star Wars says, it's like from a different point of view. This is what this game is. What do you guys think of it? Marcus, Brent, and Hawk.
It's kind of interesting because I was a big follower of mythology to begin with. Norse mythology was not the highest on my priority when I first kind of got into the mythology world. It was all about Greek mythology and Roman mythology and stuff. But then Norse mythology came out to me around the time that I discovered the show Vikings, or a little bit before that, and I just was like, wow, this is so much cooler too than I realized. And so reading up on a lot of it, and then going to this game, the first game, I was already impressed by that. They had so many nods to real mythological concepts, which is really cool. And just enough that they also made it their own, just enough to be like, okay, it's also a video game, and it's also an action game, and it's also all this kind of stuff. This time around, I feel like they're doing it even better. Like, they have more of the interlocking real mythology stories, but with even a better spin on their creative drive to the whole thing. And I'm loving what I'm seeing this time around.
Brent?
One of the things that I originally thought was a knock against the first game, I'm now realizing is very much a bonus for the first game, which was someone like me who, like, my experience with Norse mythology is a class I took in college, and everything Marvel's taught me thus far in the Thor movies. Like, I very little, like. So when we're going into the first game, I'm expecting Thor, I'm expecting Sif, I'm expecting, Odin and all of these characters that you see in all the other movies. And for them to not put any of them in the first game, but instead to, like, introduce you to the lesser known characters, the lesser known people in this mythology, and more start developing the story to pull you into that mythology and pull you into that story, and then reward you in the second game now with, okay, now we can start developing and bringing in the characters that because now you're invested in the story, now you have more knowledge of it. And I love that approach that they took, rather than just taking the easy way out and going like, here's a Thor fight, here's an Odin fight, here's this fight in the first game. Okay, good. They crafted a beautiful story that really invested everyone in the mythology.
Mm-hmm. Huck?
Like my knowledge is pretty much kind of on the same level as Brent, and that without the university course or that to go along with it. So, I recognize a lot of the character names. Obviously like Odin and Thor and everything on that. It was surprised to see Heimdall shows up a little later in the game. No spoilers or anything.
I've heard him mentioned thus far. He's been mentioned that I'm going to encounter him.
He was also in one of the trailers. Like they actually talk about him and the actor. They did a profile on him.
Yeah, spoilers. He's a bit of a dick.
They kind of mentioned that in the game.
Most of the gods are generally in Norse mythology, right?
Yeah.
But what I really enjoy about the game and that is that not only is it kind of taking you through this like a history of Norse mythology as you proceed through it, and that exploring in the all the different realms and finding artifacts and lore which add more and more pieces to it, and that there's also this thing where it's like your preconceptions about that history get pretty much broken down, especially with the aid of Mimir and like how much he contributes to each of them and that.
I didn't even mention Mimir as an actor. He's phenomenal.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, fuck.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And Brock and Sindri too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Even the secondary
They're all
characters
great.
are amazing. This cast incredible. The mythology is so well done in this game, and the way that they don't just inundate you with all of these names and processes and all of that. It's them slowly introducing you to the mythology while learning about it, without a way that is just like, oh, this is school in video game form, which is sort of what Assassin's Creed Valhalla was at times, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was a fan of the mythology beforehand. My buddy Stu is a big Norse mythology fan, so I know we've been talking about it since I've known him, like 2006. This book, again, Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful read, and it's very informative. It's also a quick read, which is good.
It looks thick.
It's not that bad. It's not. I think
it's 3 words a page.
Yeah, it's only 300.
It's for the elderly type.
Elderly like me.
It's the elderly font.
Yeah, but you know what? We can talk about the mythology and the cast and all, but we really let's get into the gameplay. So much like the previous games, the world of God of War Ragnarok is broken into various realms of the world tree Yggdrasil. Each realm has its own unique ecosystem, and more so to that, the realms that we encountered in 2018's God of War might not look the same as the last time we encountered it because, Kratos went around and did some stuff in that game. So within these realms, there are these giant maps that are meant to entice the players to come back and explore once they unlocked new weapons and skills. So, what do you guys think of the world design, the realms having this upgraded look, like because of the snow and all of that? What did you guys think of this, Marcus?
The
world design and the levels,
the results of Fibbulwinter or whatever are the thing, and I really like it because I was really worried that because we're talking about the 9 realms, like we didn't get to go to all of the realms in the first game. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what we're going to do in the second game. But the fact that we can still get to all these realms, but they're different because of the consequences of the first game. I love that because now they feel like a completely different place, a new place. But now you can also kind of have a little bit more fun with them. You can have that treacherous, like everything's broken and everything's gone, or the world is like reclaiming it, or the people have taken over and done this and stuff. It's really kind of cool.
There's something amazing when you get to an area that you went to in the first game and you're just like, wait a minute, I remember this just looks way snowier or different broken down.
So cool. Like, I mean, you're gonna see the giant snake again, and that moment was really cool for me. I was just like, oh, I remember that feeling in the first game. But seeing the difference in the circumstances of and everything are really cool. I just love I love what they're doing with it. Really do.
Agreed. Brent.
I haven't been to too many of them yet in the game. I've only been to I've been to the Svartalheim, Niflheim, and Alfheim I'm in right now. But I'm loving just the vast changes in how each of them looks. Like each of them feels like a unique world rather than just kind of a copy and paste, but with like different color schemes, like a lot of games try to pull off these days. Like going into the first area and you feel like you're in this like almost like a beach area. You go into the next one and it's just all snow capped, and it's like, oh, and I remember like this location from the first game, and I'm going to this area, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to the Valkyrie thing. Like I hated that the first game. I don't want to go back there. And now I'm like just coming in through Alfheim and like how they've created this like technological wonder. And same with like the Dwarven Mines, like how everything is just such like a technological wonder. And then all of a sudden I come out of Alfheim and I'm in this like gloriously lush, beautiful garden area, and everything is just so visually captivating. Like, I can't wait to see what is coming ahead. So.
Hawk will probably go off of that.
I'm loving like the different environments and that, and I'm loving what they've done with it. You know, obviously the effects of Fimbulwinter have reached all across to the 9 realms and that. So even areas that you've been to, I've definitely changed. Midgar especially in that. Yeah. And one of the things I'm loving is the way they really impart temperature, you know, of each place, you know, in this game and that, because Midgar feels cold, you know, with like the snow and everything and that, and the, you know, the dogs and that.
Did you notice? You can see, like, if you stop Kratos, you can see him breathing. Like, like, just little things like that. Just
it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Oh my god!
I'll give you another example. A little later on, you're going to eventually make your way to Helheim, and that you know, the land of the dead, and it's you know. There's a spell that they put on you and that, you know, to keep your body temperature from dropping and that. And it's cold, but not in the way Midgard feels cold and that. It's more of like, you know, just a spiritually dead place that you're going to. I don't know why. It just felt, you could just kind of feel the temperature a lot more this way.
I agree with that. I never thought about that.
Well, what I'm noticing, like, are you guys playing with like with headphones on, like with the 3D audio or anything like that? No, because
I
do
sometimes.
I haven't, but I should be.
I just exclusively play like that just because I want the 3D audio experience if it's available. Plus, I just don't want to wake anybody up in the house. But I've been noticing like the soundscapes for the levels, like in Midgard, like it feels like ominously echoey with like that, like, but not like empty echoey. That like a
icy
very
one.
Far wall, like that cracking, that crackling of every step. Like that kind of thing, the constant cracking and like shifting far away, and the wind blowing far away, like all of that is there. It's awesome.
And when
but
you're
then
in the
when
jungle,
you go somewhere that's
when
you're in the jungle, you're like, oh my god, it's like warm. It feels like enclosed on you because it feels humid.
Everywhere.
You hear Guns N' Roses.
There's something. Like it's just really cool. I think the audio has the audio game has stepped up, like the visual game has stepped up. Like it's all really cool. Their attention to detail this time around, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like every single realm feels differently. Like nothing feels the same, and you know which realm you're at just by the feel and the texture, the audio design. It's like this game is like batting on all tens. Was it nines, tens? I don't know. 10s. I'm gonna say 10 because that seems like a top number. Sports, right? But it's not just that each realm looks different. They're all epic in their own way. Like there are times when I sit there and I'm like, why is there no photo mode in this game? Because I just want to take a picture of this right now, and then I'll take a screenshot. But I've set up my controller. We'll talk about accessibility later, about how I can take off the HUD just by swiping up on my touchpad.
Ooh, yeah, never thought about that.
Yeah. There's a couple accessibility things. Oh, I'm really excited. We'll talk about that in like 2 or 3. So not only do they have these great design, like these big maps, but you get to go back because you get to upgrade your weapons. You get to get new skills. You get to upgrade skills. I don't remember this being as intense as the last game was. You know, you got to do some of this, but this one, it's really important to look at your gear, look at what each amulet and whatnot does what, and then you can really build your character. And I like it's very customizable now. Marcus, have you gotten a chance to do this yet? Or
oh yeah, like I felt like in the first game, like, well, I keep saying the first game, but like the first iteration of the God of War
Era 2.
North, yeah, part, yeah. Like there was a lot of upgrading, there was a lot, but it always felt like I was being like kind of funneled towards always doing a certain kind of upgrading. Like you're always going to do this. Now there was like you could either be a little bit more offensive or a little bit more defensive and that kind of thing. But this time around, it feels like it feels a little bit more like what do you want to like more than just do you want to be more of an offensive player or a defensive player? Do you want to be like do you want to kind of gauge everything on like the stun effect? Do you want everything to be more towards fire and flame? Do you want more of the runic kind of thing? Like it's one of the underrated things in that skill settings of everything. But luck is huge in this game, and so like there was a time when I never would have cared about like luck. Who gives a shit about luck or cooldown effects and that kind of stuff? But as you learn to play this game more in depth, you actually start realizing, oh my god, there's such a benefit to having your luck higher or like the vitality up higher, like all that kind of stuff. But like, I never would have really cared about it, but I've made a few choices that have favored in the luck franchise, and holy shit, the gameplay is very different. And depending on how you want to play, it's very impressive. It's very good. Like, I love the fact that you even have the option for this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I'm feeling that there's a big shift in the combat in this game compared to again, I'll echo and say the first game. We all know what we mean when we say the first game, but I've been feeling like a big shift in the combat in that. And first off, it's that was one of my biggest gripes in this game when I first started. I hated the combat, and this is coming from someone who's a Souls player, who has spent their life playing these games, and you're taught, don't hold your shield up, dodge out of the way of attacks, dodge out of the way, sidestep, roll out of the way. And I am finding that functionality in this game is they don't want you to do that at all. Really? They want you using your shield. I am struggling trying to use any sidesteps or rolls without immediately being hit by somebody else. It's destroying me.
I disagree, but mostly because I've learned the mannerisms of the creatures fighting, and each of them sort of learn how you move, so they'll know when you sidestep and stuff. So I've had to, a lot of it is the blocking, which I learned from Souls games, is the time blocking now.
And that's the parries.
Yeah, the parries.
And that's the thing, is like that's the kind of thing that like when I started playing Souls games, I was a shield up the whole time player. And then I learned as you progress through them, like, no, that's not the way to do it. That's you gotta beat that out of your head. Now I have to beat it back into my head for this game.
Do you hold up your shield for this game? Because I find I die more if
barely.
I hold up.
No, I forget I have a shield half the time because I keep trying to roll and dodge out of the way.
Fair.
I keep forgetting I have it, so I'm trying to train myself to use it more now, so the combat will be a little bit better. But
I'm gonna ask a question just based on the shield thing. There are various types of shields for different types of blocking and parrying. What kind of shield are you using at the moment?
I'm using for parrying because I anticipated that I was going to be trying to parry more than I was just straight up blocking as the game goes, because that's how I play in those games. I roll, dodge, and I parry. I try not to just block all the time.
Yeah.
So I need to train myself out of that phase. But now I'm realizing that, like, as I'm playing through and as I'm unlocking all these different gears, and they all have these different, like, attributes to them, more so than the first game did, I'm realizing how much gear plays a huge role, not just in defense, but in combat in this game, too. So now it's starting to make a lot more sense about why I felt the combat was a little clunky at the beginning. It's because they're slowly building you up into this realm, and I'm starting to get that now. So it's not bothering me as much. What I will say though is, I would trade every Kratos fight in this game to play the entire damn game as Atreus. Holy hell! I love playing as him in combat. Oh my god, it's so much fun.
I think like that's something I wanted to touch on. I'm not sure, is this a good time, or is there something that's going to come up?
I was actually gonna mention that in the story thing, and I totally skipped over. Is that this game does something different than the previous, because the previous one you were just sort of following Kratos' story.
Yeah.
But this one branches off because you get not just Kratos, you get Atreus' story as well.
This whole game feels like Atreus' story and Kratos is along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a complete 180 from the first game. Like when I watched like the whole sequence of Tyr and of all of them going through Alfheim, Kratos barely says a word the entire time.
There's a reason why I worded it earlier that it's Atreus's quest to end Ragnarok, and then Kratos is long, whether he likes it or not. That was very deliberately written, and I didn't know if you guys were at a part where where it broke apart.
Yeah,
no, I'm kind of starting to piece together where the story is going based on character interactions and just like knowledge of events and everything, and just common sense of like how video games like to play with your emotions.
I'm gonna spoil a little bit right now. Atreus gets even better.
Okay.
Oh, that's not a spoil. That's just excitement.
There's so like, much that's coming for him that you're just like, holy shit.
He's such a character that I've wanted to hate for 2 games now, but I can't. I love him.
Yeah.
Right?
And he's so good in this game.
Because as soon as you said that, Brent, like it just because like I had the exact same thought. The first time I played as Atreus, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. This is actually really cool. I hope they let me do this more. And then the next time I got to play as Atreus, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is a different game, and I love it. So I don't know, like I haven't gotten far enough.
Goddamn Hawkeye playing as him.
And I'm jealous of both Hawk and Eric because I know you guys have gotten to experience more of this already. But I don't know what the plan for the future of this franchise is going in. I don't know. I hope maybe there will be a little bit of a clue towards that at the end of the game or something. But if they were to tell me that we are going to forego Kratos as the God of War because for whatever reason, and we're going full bore into an Atreus subsection of this game sort of thing, I would be so for it. Absolutely for it. Or if they were to say there's going to be 2 different versions of this game now, there's a Kratos story and there's an Atreus story, I would buy both.
Yep.
I'll take an entire game of Atreus and Cinder.
100%.
Oh my God! Like
Agreed.
But I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler because it has been said publicly, but I don't know how much anyone knows this, but that this is the final one of the Norse mythology series.
I think that's sort of implied in the name,
I thought that they were. I originally thought they were doing 3 games, but now I've heard that they basically said that they're just doing the 2.
Well, without spoiling anything. As you progress in the story,
I don't care about spoilers personally.
No.
Like, I'm gonna play the game and I'm gonna love it. But yeah, obviously,
sake, it feels like the story is headed towards actual Ragnarok. That's all I can say.
That's what I hoped for. It's kind of what I expected and sort of hoped for.
For sure. Was there anything that you wanted to add to any of the gear, the weapons, I didn't even mention the collectibles. There's hundreds of collectibles in this game, and they just keep on giving you more. I love
the ravens. I keep looking for ravens everywhere.
Ravens isn't even the thing you need to. Yeah, no. The audio cues for the ravens are perfect. Like, especially when you're playing in surround sound and you're just like, there's a raven behind me somewhere. Where is it?
I never even thought of audio cues. I literally, every new area I walk into, I immediately am looking around for the little green fuckers.
You can also look on the map. The map says how many ravens are in each area, which is good. I didn't. But
just listen for a raven anywhere that you are, and that you will find it.
And it's eventually. Not even as like a random raven. It sounds like Silverhawks, like the Silverhawks. And sorry, Hawk. I cut you off from the weapons and the collectibles and the upgrading and all of that.
Yeah, they really put a lot more like kind of attention into the various choices you put into your armor and the way you use your weapons and that. You're never going to really get through the game in that if you're just relying on one single weapon or another in that, because enemies are taking advantage of that now and that. They'll have there'll be times when you encounter enemies with a frosted over health bar or a flamed over health bar
or a stone one.
The stone one, I'm still not quite sure about that either.
We'll talk about it after.
Okay, but yeah, you have to switch up. Relic attacks are way more important this time around.
Yes.
And the fact that like simple things like changing your axe handle open up worlds of possibilities. And I've accidentally saw a few videos on YouTube and that because like apparently YouTube doesn't care about spoiling a game or a movie for anybody now.
Yeah,
so I'll just say that. But there are unlocks you can get that like are crazy. There's an axe handle you can get that unlocks a quick relic attack that basically has you pulling out a sword that drops poison pits around your enemies.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
How have I not found this one yet? Oh, it's probably a berserker handle too.
It might be, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh God! Speaking of berserkers,
we're not talking about them.
Yeah, no. But speaking of that, the combat is that in 2018's version, and that was one of the big draws for me in that because I'm kind of a sucker for that kind of an arcadey style, like
the Devil May Cry game type.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're kind of reliant on combos, dodges, parries, and that. I love the parry system in this game, and that with that shield. I always go for like the lighter shield and that where you can do a double tap and break somebody's like whole stance.
Yeah, I'd love doing that against the fucking elves.
It's fantastic. And it is just so much better in this game.
Yeah.
It's fluid, it's well integrated in that. You're kicking yourself when you die each time and that, but every time you come back and when you finally overcome something that's taking you a billion tries and that, it almost feels effortless at that point.
There was a couple days ago where I was talking to Hawk and Brittany and I was like, for the first time ever, I had to give up on a boss. I just had to walk away because I was like, I don't think I can handle it. And then I went back like much later, having changed my gear, and it was like a world of difference. A world. Like the relics and everything that I had tuned I really like fine tuning my builds now. And I have a couple for different situations, I feel. And it like I still can't for the life of me get the berserkers, but there are some bosses that I'm just like, you know what? I can do it. I understand the attacks and the dodges and the melees enough at 40 plus hours of the game that I'm like, okay, I know what kind of thing this is. But even still, at this level, like at this point in the game, there are still people and enemies and characters that just show up and just super surprise you, and then you're just into it, and it's phenomenal.
I ran into a traveler last night during one of the levels. I don't know if you remember them, but they're the very slow moving ones, and they're big guys. You cannot stagger them, and when you want to like do a shield parry and that, you really have to work on the timing because they just like draw the sword back very ever so slowly, and that even that green marker is no indicator. No. You have to watch the way their arms swing and that to get the timing down right.
They really I remember coming into this game and I was like, how are they gonna improve on 2018, because it was probably one of my favorite games, and everything I thought about it was the tits, and this game just was like way like they just brought their A game, and it's phenomenal. Like every single time I play the game, and this is why I played my PS5 more in this week than I have in the year. It's just because this game has been amazing. That being said, this game is not without its bugs. Have you guys encountered anything yet?
Yes.
I encountered one of the worst bugs for me, and it was from a knock-in. Have you guys encountered these characters yet?
No, this
is a character that
I know the one you mean.
This is a character that'll heal your enemies as you fight.
Yes. I know which one.
That I had an invincible one. There was nothing that I could do to kill this enemy, and it was the most frustrating because it blocked off an area to my next section of a map, so I couldn't even move forward in. And then through some sort of accident, I knocked them off a cliff, and I was just like, okay, so
that works.
Thank God that glitch got I got around it. Marcus, what was your glitch that you saw or bug?
I've had a few times where like a character is like talking or doing something, but they're like floating off a cliff or something, and I'm just like, what's happening? Also, like, you know, a mechanism is moving, and like there's supposed to be a character or a creature there, and it's just not. There's just nothing there, and I'm like,
Nice. So, some fun graphical
so
GTA type glitches.
yeah, just that kind of stuff. And I mean, while it is a little distracting and it definitely pulls you out for that moment, I'm forgiving of it. I mean, there will be patches. Like I know I just downloaded a patch recently. I'm sure there will be more fixes as time goes on, and it'll be fine. But,
who knows? Maybe that knock-in issue is gone now after that patch. I got there very early. Brent, any bugs and things you've encountered?
Yeah, I had one that drove me absolutely insane. It was early in the game. It was in the mines. It was one of the mini bosses in the mines. The one where like he shakes and he spits out those little like leeches that go across the floor and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So every time, like when you kill him, basically like Atreus is like, oh, he's dead, but we still got the little guys. Got to kill the little guys. So I would go after them, and then I get to the last one, and the last one would clip through the wall.
No.
And then end up behind a gate. Where he wouldn't come back out, and you couldn't attack him. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't backtrack. You couldn't proceed. You could do nothing except restart from the last checkpoint.
Oh,
and then I
brutal,
went
man.
and I did it, and it happened 3 times in a row. And it seemed to be every time I killed the last little things of the bugs on one side of the map, they would clip through that spot every time. So then finally I was like, let me kill them on the other side and see what happens. And everything went fine.
That's crazy.
So that was annoying because I had to go back and fight the boss 3 times. Like,
yeah. Hawk, anything on your 40 plus?
Nothing in gameplay so much. I had a couple of fatal errors where the game just I have the digital download
You are
version.
playing on PS4,
Yeah.
And I think the rest of us are playing on PS5?
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. So I had a few fatal errors where the game just quit on you. Well, other than that, the only thing I've noticed is occasionally you'll get dialogue overlap, where a character starts speaking before the other guy's line is finished, or
I've seen a little bit of that too. Yeah,
I never got that.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder. I think this is a good bridge because we can talk about the graphics and the gameplay on cross-generational, because this is one of the few games that they put on both the PS4 and the PS5s. They've started mostly moving on to the PS5.
I feel like I'm the only one here that got a hard copy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a steel case for a hard copy, but I don't have a hard copy, which I think is just stupid.
That's so weird.
That is a weird thing.
They've
been doing that a lot recently. I don't know why.
Well,
Even Gotham Knights
if I'm shelling out, like, no offense, but if I'm shelling out $300 for a collector's edition, give me the game and the digital copy.
Yeah,
like just let me have the option for both.
or just the game. Like, fuck the digital copy. Give me the game. Like,
well, I like the digital copy.
Why you buy a tangible object is to have a tangible game. Like,
but like having a physical disc means that I have to make sure that I put it into the machine every time I want to play that game. This is one of those games where I want to turn it on and off anytime I want.
Yeah.
So like, some of my older games, some of my other games, I don't mind popping in a disc. This is a game that I'm like, I might try do something else. I might, pick up in my GTA games. I might pick up in a Gran Turismo game. But then once I've done all that, I want to jump right back into my God of War without any hesitation and no stopping. So that's why I
like learn how to throw them from across the room.
That's good. That's a good skill.
Like your axe.
Yeah.
Did it's Hawk, I know you've seen footage from the PS5. This is mostly for your section. Have you noticed any graphical differences between the PS5 and the PS4 version?
To be honest, nothing that I could see, because I've watched video like of PS5 footage captured in that, and to be, I'm really not seeing much of a difference.
Santa
this is just based on
right. They're good at optimizing things, and like I think about the last cross-generational game that really bugged me, and that was from PS3 to PS4, and that was Destiny, because a lot of Destiny was held back because they were on the PS4. It was held back because they were still porting things to the PS3, and they were updating things for the PS3. But personally, I don't think that Ragnarok has suffered any by having it also be on the PS4. Feels from the PS5 people?
I feel like it could have been Could have been better.
Well,
I feel like this is yet another thing where, Hawk, I'm glad you got to play it. I'm happy for you. But again, I'm ready for some PS5 exclusives now.
That's fair.
I'm ready for us to start getting things that take full advantage of the hardware and the capabilities, and I feel like they could have pushed this game further than they did.
I'm gonna give you a fun little example about this exclusivity thing. Because Gotham Knights is a game that is only on the current gen, so PS5, Xbox Series X or whatever, S, X, and PC. And that game does not look better or play better than God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the capabilities of the system or the dedication. That has to do with the dedication of the company that made it. That basically went, let's pump this out quick.
That game's been in development for a long time. That's not a review.
I think they rushed the release a little bit towards the end. I think they got tired of delaying it and they were like, just fucking put it out.
Maybe.
But
Marcus, what about you?
I think it could have been better. Could have been better. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
As someone who's later in the game, it's hard to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's nothing that bothers me. There's nothing here that I'm saying there going like, oh, like the game is suffering in quality because it has a PS4 counterpart. The only thing that I could think of is like maybe if they went full bore into the PS5, we might get just slight nuances in like those beautiful cinematic scenes. Like there might be just a little bit more realism in the movement and that kind of stuff. Like maybe it would have, because there are moments where I'm like, it still kind of looks like somebody would gesture to you, but instead of like a hand doing this, it's like, like just it's there's those little small things that like there's lots of detail in this.
Yeah.
And it's specifically on Kratos and the core people in that realm, right? But if there were any cutscenes, like I would love to see some cutscenes involving some of these creatures that we actually see more detail instead of just seeing generic boss creature. I would love to see those kind of details too, but they don't dedicate that kind of thing in cinematics unless it's a story point. I feel like if it was a PS5 exclusive, maybe we'd get a little bit more like that, but I'm not complaining in any way. What they've done in this game is gorgeous, and there's no problem.
I will say there are those creatures, the big creatures, the cinematic creatures that you do end up fighting, also in cinematics later in the game. I'm going to use an example from God of War 3. The first fight when you're fighting on a Titan, and you remember how that this was a game that was at the end of that system, so they utilized the PS3 pretty much to the top notch. There are sequences like that in this game that I don't want to ruin, but there are cinematics parts that are just I've never seen anything like it on the system. Like it's
me, I feel it's less a gripe against this game as it is. We're 2 years into the PS5, and I have yet to feel like I've played a real PS5 game yet. I still don't feel like I've played one. I still don't feel like I've played one that is encompassing all of the capabilities that the system has to offer. I feel like we're still getting shorted.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is because we're focusing still on past generations, and I think it's time they start making some titles that are like, okay, let's kick this into gear and let's make let's do the best we can.
Honestly, in each generation is usually year 3 or 4 when it's just they get rid of the last generation. So we will be seeing that next year. And I think when we get Suicide Squad, like that's going to be our first real generational game that I can think of that's going to be released.
I don't even know if it's that one. To me, like the one that I'm most excited
to think of.
To me, the one I'm most excited for next year that I think is really going to push it into the next generation is Wukong.
I don't even know.
I think Black Myth. I think Wukong Black Myth is going to be the game. Like from everything I've seen thus far, that's going to be the game that goes, holy shit, this is what the PS5 can do.
That's fair. Is it a first party game?
I believe so.
We'll see.
I've been following that. I don't know who. I can't remember exactly who the developer is.
Well, fine. It's neither here nor there. We have Wolverine coming out next year. I think that's exclusive for PS5. If we get that next year, I think Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 is aiming for next year, and
year as
Wolverine
well.
will probably. I think Wolverine they said
Wolverine will
won't
be
be
after, yeah.
until at least 2024.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Forspoken is also a exclusive PS5 game that's coming out next month. Not next month.
Which
2 months.
I'm excited for Forspoken, but it doesn't feel, or at least from the video shots I've seen and everything, it doesn't look like it's at the level that Brent is kind of envisioning yet. Like,
That's fair.
It still feels like it still feels early generational. It feels like it's going to be good, but early generational.
Yeah. I want a game, like, honestly, I want a game that blew me away like Astro's Playroom did. That was like that's the only game for PS5 thus far that really made me go, holy shit, this is what they can do. Like, this is incredible. No other game has made me feel that way since.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Astro had a phenomenal graphics video, DualSense controls.
Yeah.
This game also has very good DualSense, but not to the extent of Astro. Let's move on. So this game, one of the most cinematic games. If you think of cinematic games in Sony PlayStation, you think of Last of Us, you think of Uncharted, you think of God of War. And you can't really have a cinematic game without a cinematic score. And this game brought back Bear McCreary of Battlestar Galactica fame, Outlander, and the recent Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. What did you think of the movie? The score, not the movie, the score of the game, which expands off the 2018 score, and all the music throughout the game. Marcus, you first.
It's fucking epic and beautiful. The music is incredible. The everything, like the music that follows as you enter a new area, as you just kind of see something new. As soon as something new happens, you're treated with this barrage of sound and this gorgeous like orchestral blowout of some sort. But it all feels really like it's not just Hans Zimmerman shouting shit at you for no reason. It all feels very purposeful and really like tasteful to the moment that you're in. So it's awesome.
Brent.
Every area that you walk into, the music feels like it's being conducted with instruments that you think would belong to that area. Like you look at Alfheim and you're like, all I'm picturing in my head in Alfheim is like pan flutes and like that kind of like woodwind instruments and everything. And just the way that like it's just so open and airy and that's the kind of music you're getting when you're there. So it's not just that it's like a beautiful score that he's developed, but it's like he's found a way to make it unique to each area in a way that like really fits with the visuals. And I mean, goddamn, that Thor fight, the music through that whole thing.
Each of the boss fights, the music has been phenomenal. Brent, or not Brent, Hawk.
It's exactly what you expect from Bear McCreary in that, and it's exactly what you want from Bear McCreary in that kind of score, and that it's as Brent said, it's beautiful. It's so appropriate to each section that you're going through, and that it feels very acoustic and real.
Yeah.
And
there are times when I find myself like going throughout my day and I'm just humming the theme song from the opening menus. Yeah, because it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. And there are times when the music interacts with characters and you're like, how are they doing this magic? It's phenomenal. We talked about the sound design, but the music and the integrated with the sound design, integrated with the graphics and everything that's happening on screen, like Santa Monica Studios, man, you guys, you did phenomenal.
Doing some good stuff.
I think we've touched upon pretty much everything in this non-spoiler version of this review. Are there any final thoughts you want to talk about this game, Marcus, before we give a number score?
So to step away from the actual game for a second and just talk about like so I purchased the collector's edition.
Yep.
And again, this made it worth every penny. This is the coolest.
What's the weight on it? Like, what's the heft on it?
It's got a good, like, it's not heavy, but it's got a fun
like a
weight
nice
to
balance.
It feels like if I was Thor, this is what it feels like to him. And I think that's the best way I can say it, because like it has some like some solidness to it, but like what you would look at this and think if that was stone or metal or anything, like you'd be like, holy crap. But like the idea that it's you know, but it has that weight. It's fantastic. Also, like you can't really see, but like it's real like fabric
Oh
leather.
man.
It's fake leather, but it's actually like fabric leather wrapping. This is a separate piece. This gold stuff, this is all a separate piece. You can see the detail and like the hole in between and stuff like that. The detail of like the work in between and everything. Like this is one of the best looking things I've seen come out of one of these kind of video game things in a long time.
Wow.
So this already made it worth it. But then there was the like I love these the Freya and Freyr like wood.
Oh, they're okay, like their little funeral.
I love
the funeral thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I missed out on the Kratos and Atreus ones from the original because I didn't get the collector's edition of those, and like it's just so nice. And then because they know a bunch of D&D nerds are you know playing these games, the dice bag and like these they look like carved wood like dice. These are just absolute like you can't see it in this, but like it has the striation of
Is
like
it actually
wood grain. No, it's definitely like a cast resin or something, but like the actual pieces have that like striation
through the camera. Like it's crazy.
It they feel so good and like
are they weighted?
Just janky. They're a good weight. Like it doesn't feel like
as a D&D nerd. I'm like,
yeah. Guess who's invited to Dead Ice now?
But like looking at the Jotner edition or whatever, where they have the dice bag as well, but the dice look like they're stone or like metal or something like that, that kind of thing. I actually much prefer the wooden, like kind of earth, like kind of based ones, and like I just love what I got. Like it's small, it's not that much, but it's just really cool.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the game in general?
The game, I'm so excited to see where this goes. Like this is the story I've been waiting for. This feels like a great culmination of the years of playing God of War. I really hope that this doesn't end the franchise of God of War completely. I hope they kind of do something different, redevelop it in some way. And I really hope, like if like I said, I would love it if they branched two separate versions and we felt like we did an Atreus follow-up or like an entire new series of Atreus games and then just give us a Kratos callback once in a while or something would be cool. But who knows? I don't know what they have planned. I don't know what's going on with them, but I just think it would be really amazing and really blown away by how instantly emotional I am when playing this game. I absolutely cried when Fenrir died at the beginning of this game.
That was so mean watching.
That's not a spoiler. People, don't worry, it's not a spoiler. It's like it's right off the bat. It's one of the first things that happens in this game.
I was warned I was going to cry within the first 10 minutes of the game, and then I was like, and I tried not to, but no.
It instantly was just so good, and it instantly set me into this world, and it pulled me into the shoes of Atreus, quite frankly. Like instantly I was like, okay, Atreus, I'm here for you, man. Like let's figure this out together, buddy. And I love it. Every time something happens, every time some kind of resolution or like there's a father-son moment or any of those kind of things, like I'm instantly locked in, and I'm like, I find myself like leaning in and just my eyes watering, like, okay, right, I have to use a controller, right. Like I get into those moments. So kudos to Santa Monica for doing that. Like this is an amazing piece of work. I hope that you will step up the next time you decide to do your next game. I'm sure there's something already in development.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But I really can't wait to see what comes next. Like Eric, I think we've talked about it. There's certain companies that we just you expect and you know that they're going to bring something to you. Naughty Dog always gives us something good. Santa Monica is now just like, I can't wait to see what you give us next. I can't wait. This is great.
Yeah, Brent.
Yeah, God of War 2024. He's in there. God of War 2030. He's now fighting all the religious figureheads.
Any final thoughts on the game?
Two quick side thoughts. First, if I had that Mjolnir, I would be finding a way to cut it open and filling it with like 30 earth magnets and dropping it onto a metal floor.
I I could just do a cast of it and make
There you
multiples of these, but I'm not going to. It's just too perfect.
Secondly, as sad as we all are about Fenrir, fuck Kratos and Atreus, because when they took off, they left the other two dogs behind, being unfed. Nobody cares about the other two dogs.
They're wolves. They can hunt for
Go
themselves.
out and hunt. Exactly.
They were living in barrels. They were left to die. It's hard to honestly. It's hard for me to comment too much on how I feel about the game, because I really, before playing it yesterday, was coming in today with a much more negative opinion of the game. And as I keep playing it and as it keeps evolving as I go, it's quelling the concerns that I had, and it's erasing the negativity that I had towards it. Even just today, even just playing an hour today, is already like one of the things I had an issue with the game is like I felt like the puzzles in the game. I was like, we're just repeating the puzzles from the first game. We're not doing anything. And then I get to Alfheim and it's like, oh, finally we've got some new mechanics that we can work into the puzzling. So I'm like, never mind, I don't have that issue anymore. So Lord knows how I'm going to feel after I hit 30 or 40 hours into this game. But like my love for it is growing exponentially as I play it. I really was on the fence with it early on. I really was like, I don't know if I can really say that this is a great game, but now I'm starting to go, okay, I get it. Like it's a slow burn. It's not meant to hit you out of the gate right away. It's meant for you to really get lost and involved in it. So
you mean it's Andor in God of War? Yeah. Hawk.
We all expected this to be some sort of a DLC back in 2018 after it was, the ending was teased, with Thor showing up.
Yep.
And to be honest, I am so glad. I am so surprised they were able to pull off a game of this magnitude in 4 years, really.
They were developing it before then, I assume.
Yeah. They must have been in that, because like the actual story that we're watching unfold in that, it just mind-blowing on that. It's better than most of the movies I've actually seen this year.
Mm-hmm.
The game, it's going to be down to this and Elden Rings as far as what is actually game of the year for me at this point.
I think that's how it is for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I know my choice. I've made my choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, wait till you get to hour 2025 on that, and we'll see if that changes.
It's a God of War review today. Thank you, Sony, for providing the copy. So I'm not going to sit here and gush over Elden Ring in this review. I'll do that.
Both are phenomenal games.
Yes.
Anything else, Huck?
I think that's about it. I mean, like I am so glad to be playing this. This is what I'm looking forward to every time I'm sitting down now.
It's funny. Like I hadn't turned on my PS5 in months. It has to be months, right, Hawk? Like I don't remember the last time you saw me turn on my PC. And my friend Julian last week was like, I've never seen you been on your PS5 as much as you have since God of War came out. And it's rightfully so. This game is enthralling. It's cinematic. It's atmospheric. These are all buzzwords, but they all earn merit for this game, because there is nothing like this right now that is that compelling on this system for me. Like I loved Horizon this year, but I love Elden Ring, but there's something about this story, these characters, interweaving all of these puzzles, this action, this mythology without making it sort of a blasphemy. It's sort of them setting their own Norse tale, right? Like this is their own myth set in that would fit perfectly within actual Norse mythology, which I think is phenomenal just on a writing standpoint. Sorry, Hawk.
Just one more thing to point out is like I am so glad they didn't pursue a type of dialogue that they think might be more befit like the game and the setting and that, and they just keep the dialogue very grounded and very graphic, which I love.
It feels real, like I think that has to deal with the performances.
Yeah,
the actors, even in its own right, like even just the little incidental dialogue when you're like rowing a boat or when you're just walking in the field going to the next thing, everything feels like it should be there. Like Mimir having a chat with Atreus as he's like hanging off of Kratos' butt. Like these little moments are what makes this game special for me, is because it feels like they are this family going on this epic adventure, even though they don't want to necessarily. It's them being thrown to the wills of destiny, and there are moments that I'm just so excited for you to get into. Like
I can't honestly, I can't wait.
There are things in this game that I did not expect to see or do, and it's like this is a complete work of art for me. This is top to bottom probably one of my favorite experiences right now. I at story-wise where I am in the game, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a very important point in the God of War franchise. I feel like this feels like a conclusion, but it's also going to open up this realm of limitless possibilities. Like Hawk, I don't know if you can feel that same way. Like there are things that are going to be ending soon. But you know that there's all these other things that they've introduced this game that you're like, well, you can go there and there and there and imagine what can happen here. And that's what Santa Monica did. Like everyone on this team made it so that you're happy that you're going on this adventure. It might be a final one. We don't know because we're not done it. But I'm excited to be on the journey. And I'm speechless at times for this game. Like this is perfect for me. Let's rate this. Let's rate this from 1 to 10. What do you give this, Marcus? At this point in your game, what do you think this game deserves?
At this point, I'm honestly at like a 9.5, maybe a 9.8. I don't know. Like I can't give it a perfect score because it's not 100% perfect, but like this for me, the mythology is all there. I'm so into this style of gameplay and this style of storytelling and this style of mythos that I can't be upset by anything. I love all of it, and they've given me the right flex with all the characters. Like what was missing from the first game with like I didn't really enjoy the Atreus coming in and doing as much as he did. This time, I'm so there for Atreus, and I love everything that they've done with him. I love all the other secondary characters that they've introduced. Like, I am loving everything so far. So yeah, I'm right around the 9.5 to 9.8.
Nice, Brent. At this point in your gameplay,
at this point in my gameplay, and this is again, ask me again when we do a year-end list episode. I would say I'm at an 8 right now. I still feel like there's a lot of improvement that can be done to the game, but from what I'm hearing from you guys, it's like just sit tight, asshole. It's coming. But at this point, I'm like, I can't give it a higher score because I just really do feel like it hasn't hit that point in the game yet for me. So, but I do see it coming. But so for right now, I would say it's an 8.
Hawk.
So far, I'm thinking this is a 10 for me. Like everything that was so
happy.
There was everything that was so good about God of War in 2018, and that it's just been refined and made better. In that, as I said, like just on the armor and like the relic systems and and upgrading your tools and everything alone is way more of an improvement over like the last game. You mentioned about how much maybe some people might have found Atreus a little annoying in the last game, and that more just a buddy. And that I never really used him a lot in combat. He is invaluable in combat in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. And again, like playing as him, like along the way. I can see where this franchise could be going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So far 10 out of 10. Who knows? That might change at the after I finish it and that, but so far, no. Yeah. 10 out of 10.
I'm gonna agree with Hawk. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This game for me is a masterpiece. It is Empire Strikes Back to 2018's A New Hope. It does everything that a sequel and this is directly a sequel, should do. It takes what came before, and that includes the previous games, all the franchise, the Arrow 1 games, and it respects that, all the stuff that came before, because Kratos doesn't feel wrong, and his relationship with Atreus feels real, but they go in so many places in this game, and they're not afraid to take it into, fraught relationships, family dynamics, especially between these two. Like, you don't expect a game to be about a father and son to be this emotional, especially in a video game, an action adventure game. But they really do. They take you everywhere. The range of emotions you go through in this game is phenomenal. Each department in this game, just hands down, they're some of the best. I can't think of a PS5 game that is this good for me personally.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool. We got a 9.5, a 8, or was it 8.5? I can't remember. It was 8, right? 8, a 10, and a 10.
It'll go up.
I look forward to what you guys think of when you get further in the game, because I'm so excited for some of the stuff that you guys get to meet, and some of the characters that you get to see coming up are so awesome. I
have about 3 hours total of work this entire week, so
you're God of War.
I know what I'm doing.
There's one of my favorite character you guys haven't even met yet in this game. My favorite character.
Is it the squirrel? I've met the squirrel.
Okay, then you've met my favorite character.
Oh yeah, I love the squirrel.
The bitter squirrel.
The squirrel. And there's also another person that's very good, but we'll talk about them later. Anyway, so thank you guys for coming on, talking about God of War. Thank everyone out there who's listening to us or watching us online. Thank you guys for coming to our review, and especially thank you, Sony, for sending us a review copy. We really appreciate you guys sending us love and getting us to play the game early, and so that we can do things like this and tell the people what we think about it. Anyway, for all the guys here, for Hawk, for Brent, for Marcus, I'm Eric. This is Geeks with Kids. We'll see you later. Goodbye.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.